3 years ago, I was trapped by relentless, suicidal thoughts. I existed, but I wasn't really living. Negative talks spiraled into my default mindset. My depressed brain felt unworthy of support, and my suicidal ideation felt unalarming, probably because it was my new normal. How was I supposed to practice self-care when I couldn't even remember what used to make me happy? I'm here now, though, thanks to my journey into authentic communication and lots of Ed Sheeran. I have healed and even discovered effective self-care. But here's the thing. Mental health struggles are surging, and we need to help quell that surge. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among individuals 15 to 34, fourth leading cause of death among individuals 35 to 54. In 2019, 12 million adults had serious suicidal ideation. 3.5 million of them went on to make a plan, and 1.4 million made an attempt. And with this pandemic, mental health crises continue to climb. In fact, COVID-19 induced isolation and its related mental health struggles are now considered our secondary pandemic. Too often, these struggles are hidden because of stigmas and shame. So what can we do? Well, whatever the problem, community is the answer. And while I believe in this quote, we have to be critical that not just any community is the answer. In fact, I think some of our unrealistic societal expectations are how we get into these mental health messes in the first place. Stigmas burden us to heal on our own, and that just isn't cutting it, because traumatized brains struggle to see greener pastures. So the type of community I think that we need to solve this problem is one that embraces authentic communication. Imagine a world where honesty is welcomed, relationships are deep, and support is always accessible through a shared sense of belonging. Now that would be a mental health inclusive world. And maybe we can live in that world if we strive to communicate authentically. So what do I mean by authentic communication? I mean sharing the full spectrum of the human experience, reflecting on our thoughts, feelings, and actions instead of masking them. Here are my 3 steps to authentic communication. 1, share authentically. 2, listen authentically and openly. And 3, do our best to reframe vulnerabilities as what it means to be human. First, we need to take a risk and share our authentic selves. Discover how our authenticity invites others to share, connect, and even heal. Authentic communication, shared by a fellow UMBC community member, helped save my life. My colleague struggled privately for over 10 years and then decided to share publicly in an effort to encourage others to seek the care that they needed. And that strategy worked. His story jolted me into finally taking care of myself. And you know who else tends to share authentically with the community? This guy. Why, this Ed Sheeran song made me put him in my self-care kit. This is actually a story I wrote for a health website. The song that I'm referring to here in the title is I Don't Care. I mean, that's pretty authentically blunt. But for those of you who are unfamiliar with this song, what it means to me is how one authentic connection with someone can be enough to pull you through adversity. Ed shares authentically through many of his song lyrics. I share my authentic reactions to his music. It's like we're basically best buds. But sharing is only half of communication. We also need to listen authentically. And here what I mean is, let's do our best to understand others' honest perspectives. For example, when I finally spoke to a therapist, it was such a relief to be listened to without judgment. I really felt her empathy. And she went on to share authentically with me about her own anxiety struggles and how she takes care of it day to day. Medication. Now, at the time, I had harbored negative bias about using psychiatric medication, but it was now my turn to listen authentically. I had tried cognitive therapy skills for months, and they did nothing to stop the flood of harmful thoughts. So I went to a psychiatrist, and I listened, and I'm really glad that I did, because not only did I stop hating myself, but I finally really appreciated myself. And I know that medication isn't helpful or accessible to everyone, though the following is actual footage of me authentically communicating to my husband post-treatment. But in all seriousness, I needed medication, and that's okay. My new treatment has inspired me to communicate authentically beyond my comfort zone. It also brought me to this third step of authentic communication, which is normalizing vulnerabilities within our community. What I mean is, let's scrap the stigmas and embrace human diversity in all of its beautiful forms. Through authentic sharing and listening, we refocus on our humanity. For many of us, I might be suggesting a paradigm shift. Once I accepted that my suicidal ideation or my undiagnosed ADHD or autism wasn't shameful, then I found myself ready to love so many others around me. Now that I communicate authentically, I've developed deeper personal and professional relationships in the last couple years than compared to the 30-some years that I spent trying to fit in. I invite you to cultivate a sense of belonging through authentic communication, and here's how. You can signal your support through a symbol in your online profile or at your office. Maybe something like this. You can check in with a friend if you're worried about them. Maybe just to touch base and show support through a real conversation. Heck, you can even email me. We'll talk about all of our similar Ed Sheeran self-care strategies. I'm still waiting for Ed to respond to this open letter, by the way. Our community is impacted by mental health struggles more than we tend to realize. Struggles are often hidden behind masks of success. Suffocating stigmas can devastate on individual and collective levels if left unexplored and unchallenged. As a community, let's be inclusive, not isolating. Let's be empathetic, not sympathetic. Let's be honest, not pleasing. And let's show support instead of judgment. Let's communicate authentically and create a world where we unleash the best in people to speak up, contribute, and move our community forward. Our commitment to inclusive excellence evolves through authentic communication, and the next step begins with you.